you said one of the teams you wanted to start with or talk about today was Golden State. So do you want to talk about Golden State?
Yeah, I mean, I figure watching every minute of every game, so I might as well we might as well repurpose that for
Well,
like a
hold on.
little check
We
in.
don't watch games around here. Let's not.
Those are the only games I watch. That's it. um, yeah, like so I don't know. Obviously, the headlining is that Steph Curry sprained his ankle twice in the span of like a quarter a couple nights ago and went out, and it was both non-contact. I don't know if you have you seen the clips of it where it was just like didn't step on anyone's foot, just like trying to move around like a normal person, rolled
My
it
first
over.
thought was I'm still not sure if he's worth that 4-year, $44 million extension they gave him
Yeah.
a decade.
Everybody from what 10 plus years ago now is like, see, he can't, he's never going to stay healthy. So yeah, that was, I mean, it's nothing you haven't seen just several times before. And it seems like a fairly minimal absence is in store. And man, like, of course that obviously matters, but the story for this team of the early season is just, and everybody's picked up on this. Like, I think it was obvious in the preseason. So no kudos for anyone that's just now coming around to these facts, but like this team is super deep. Lindy Waters does mean you have 13 guys that can actually play. He was unbelievable. I just want the number. So the Warriors beat the Pelicans the night before we're recording this. And Waters just like, I want to find his game log because it's just, I know his rebounds were, what's that?
It was filthy. The stat line
It was
is
unbelievable.
filthy.
So just here are the numbers, and then we could talk about like just how this is happening. This may just all be about Lindy Waters. 21 points on 8 of 13, 3 of 7 from 3. That seems low. 8 rebounds is a career high, 4 assists, a steal, no turnovers. He's a plus 26 in 30 minutes in an 18-point win for the Warriors. So like he's definitely symptomatic. He's a symptom of like what is just happening on Golden State, which is the ball is moving in ways that like it just really hasn't for several years. And that's partly by necessity because there just aren't guys you have to slow the offense down to force shots to. Honestly, I think a lot of it is the influence of Brandin Podziemski, who just his playing style is like so frenetic and quick and just kind of also bordering on chaotic a lot of the time that it just like if you're on the floor with him, you're almost infected and like you just sort of pick it up a little bit. So the ball moves better. Everybody's hustling on defense. It's not all him, but he is a league leading plus 76 plus minus on the season, despite shooting like 18% from 3, maybe it's 19%, and under 40% from the field.
Yeah, because he hit 3 of them against the Pels, right? That was probably his best shooting performance of the year.
And like the shooting and the scoring for him is a real problem, but he's so good at everything else and so good at what seems to be like an intangible ability to just like lift the intensity of teammates. It's worth it. Even if he's going to shoot under 40% from the field, like it's just the payoff is there. The plus minus is not, it's been a year plus now where that's just a thing. And I don't think it's magic. So yeah, I mean, the depth is unbelievable. Buddy Hield I texted somebody the other day, like Buddy Hield shoots every shot as if he's never missed a shot before. And it's just like they come off the same level of confidence. He's so thirsty for shots. He chases the ball wherever it goes. It's just like it's a fun time because the Warriors are winning in ways that they haven't really in a long time. The defense is super chaotic. They're forcing more turnovers than anyone in the league. They have the highest transition frequency in the league, and those two things are very much related because they just get the ball and take off. The Jonathan Kuminga stuff, maybe we can talk about, but I mean, pretty like, hard to be more optimistic just based on like, you know, how bleak this season could have looked. Maybe, you know, if it had gone the way that many thought, where it was they don't have a second star, everything's too dependent on Curry. Draymond's getting old. Like, you know, there were some real downsides here, but I do think this is about as exciting and fun and encouraging as you could have really realistically hoped for. 3-1 through 4 games, pretty solid start.
Is there? I mean, I think the overarching question here would be: are the Golden State Warriors as constructed potential contenders or outright contenders? And I think when you look at their defense specifically, you mentioned a lot of the stuff. They and the Oklahoma City Thunder are currently the only teams that rank in the top 5 of opponent shooting percentage at both the rim and from the 3-point line. And we know that 3-point defense there's just so much noise in there. The deflection they're getting it's all over the place. I do think some of their success might be predicated on, well, how healthy is D'Anthony Melton going to be moving forward because his back issues already flared up. We're so early into the season. I think we could say I don't necessarily know what to make of this team's ceiling right now, but like, how good can this team be as currently constructed?
That is the question, because you wonder if the things that have led to so much success really just go down the line, like, tend to be things that we say mean less in the playoffs, depth being the first one, right? Like in the postseason, you just play your best guys more. And so this advantage the Warriors have in, say, second quarters and the beginning of fourth quarters, where they just have better players on the floor because their reserves are better than yours, like that may just go away. So that's one. Two, like winning games by just disorganizing things and creating chaos, you would imagine is just harder against, playoff teams that, one, are playing their best players, and two, are just going to be better able to handle, like, being sped up or being forced into like difficult shots. Where, and let's remember too, the Warriors did not exactly face a murderer's row to start the season. Like the Pelicans even are beat up, and that's the best team they've played. So you get you lose to the Clippers, but you also get Portland and Utah, right? I think those, like, okay, so what are we even judging it on? I do think there are real questions about whether any of this is like postseason, like is viable in the postseason or will be anywhere nearly as effective. But this was a team we weren't really sure was going to make the postseason in the first place. So I do think the silver lining is that all this stuff should continue to work during the year. And then at least the Warriors will have the opportunity to prove or disprove like how valuable this stuff is in the playoffs. Because that certainly wasn't a given, right? We were kind of on the fence, like when you're going down the playoff list in the West.
I already forgot where I had them. I'm sure it was in the play-in or out of it.
It was one of the things where it's like, who can you guarantee is better? Like guarantee. And there were 3 or 4 teams, but then it's like, who can you guarantee they'll be better than? And it's like Utah and Portland, maybe the Clippers. Like that was kind of it.
I think we threw the Spurs in there. I think
they're probably the Spurs. Yeah. But yeah, I think the playoff viability of all this stuff is really still a lingering question. But for now, just, stick with what's working and see where it gets you. And then maybe it falls apart, when the stakes raise, and maybe you surprise somebody. I don't know.
I want to ask you about the Jonathan Kuminga of it all, but I really wanted to boil it down to just 2 things, as in, what is something that you view as the most unsustainable about this team? And like, what is the one surprising trend that you're kind of buying? And I will say my biggest concern, or not, I don't want to look at this and say it's the offense writ large, but I do question, and you mentioned this already, that maybe this could be more of a playoff concern. The fact that they're 7th in points scored per possession, but Kevon Looney is the player on this team that has seen the largest share of his shots go unassisted so far, is wild to me. And I think even as of right now, when you look at generally these real NBA contenders and most of these, I would say all of these top offenses, with the exception of perhaps, what Denver's supposed to be, is that they have 2 guys who just can go generate shots on their own. And I'm not saying that you need to hit all these unassisted buckets, but you're going to normally look and see, oh, these guys rank in the top 20 or top 25 of unassisted points generated.
Mm-hmm.
And with the Warriors right now, Kuminga and Looney are the only 2 players that we've seen that have most of their made shots going unassisted.
Yeah.
Which is Steph has always kind of hovered on the line of that because of all the stuff he does off the ball. And so I think you throw him in there when he's healthy. Hot take, Steph is really good. Like, so you can say that, but after that, I'm just curious. It's like, okay, how does this offense sustain long-term is my biggest concern. I do say on the buying side, I'm very interested to hear what you have to say, by the way. I think I'm buying too much of what I'm seeing on the defensive end, to the point of like, I feel like I should feel as if it's more unsustainable, but the energy, the chaos that they're playing with right now, and just the personnel that they have, is it a matter of, well, you're not overextending anybody? And I said this to listener B Rich during the Pelicans game. I said, this is really spicy, but when Draymond Green is available, he's pretty good.
Yeah. I think, I guess one thing where we should just stick to our priors it is on the issue of the second, like, dynamic, doesn't need any help scoring threat. because that's still just a thing, and that does tie to Kuminga. Has not at all been that guy so far. And Wiggins has looked better in that capacity, but I just don't like if you're relying on Andrew Wiggins to be like a singular offensive creator, like consistently and reliably, often as a first option, depending on the lineups. Like that's just you can't. That's not a functional way to play NBA offense. So that I think is I guess you'd then sell some of the offensive effectiveness because it has been so predicated on ball movement and just mathing it and shooting a ton of threes and getting all these transition looks that are really built by the defense. And so I'm with you. I would buy the defense being really disruptive and deep and being able to speed games up and make them like messy in favorable ways. I do think Ivica Zubac showed that this team is vulnerable to real size, though. Like they hadn't really seen a ton of that outside of the Clippers game. The Pelicans, obviously, like actually even Yves Missi had some moments.
I'm buying I think specifically on defense, it does feel like the turnover generation, which as you've mentioned is fueling a lot of their offense because of the speed at which they could play and the time they spend in transition. I think I'm all the way buying that aspect of their start. I just look at this team and I hate that it comes back to this. We need to get to Jonathan Kuminga. What have you made of his performance? The decision of Kerr to not only bench him, but to bench him on a night when Steph Curry was out, I thought was fascinating. What have you made of all of this?
I mean, I will say first, I totally understand the benching. If and this seems to be the case, the Warriors are just going to play like nobody's like guaranteed minutes. It's just going to really, in theory, go to who's earning them. And Kuminga was just not a part of all the positive things I mentioned earlier about how the Warriors are playing across their first three games. Like it was really jarring that you'd see all this incredible ball movement, all of this hustle, all this like intuitive, connected play. And then there was Kuminga, right? Like, and the ball would get to him, it would stop, he'd bobble it. I really do think we could just kind of free range this. Like, I assume he's pressing. I assume the lack of an extension is like a factor because it just, the things he was struggling with, of which there were many, were just like, he looked like a rookie again for stretches, just like uncertain, hesitant, not really understanding where he fit in this movement offense. And like, if you want to be alarmist about it, you can definitely make the case that like, he just isn't, in his worst moments, he is not like a system player. And normally that's a pejorative if you say someone's a system player, but I use the term to mean like he can function within like a free flowing offense where there are quick reads and there's nothing predetermined and you don't stop things to get into your bag. You just the 0.5 offense stuff. Like I really think there's a lot of evidence to suggest like he just isn't cut out for that. And he wants to be the guy that the possession stops. He has it at the top and he tries to beat his matchup like that. That I feel like is the type of player he wants to be. And maybe is the type of player is the only type of player he can be. He's 22. He looked much better against New Orleans, especially in the second half, where he did seem to be much more a part of like the collective, like, holy shit, these guys are playing hard and running and doing all this stuff. But for the most part, he has been like operating independently of all the rest of that good stuff. And that's when he's looked worst. So the benching, I totally get. I think way too much is being made that it was done over text message. I feel like Kerr texted him and explained like
we're in 2025, basically.
Right. Like I think that become like getting into the news cycle was just like, I understand it because obviously there is some kind of disconnect between Kuminga and the team and Kerr.
Oh yeah.
But like, I don't feel like that's, much of anything. But like, if he continues to not start, it wouldn't surprise me. And like, he hasn't deserved it, honestly. Like, based just on his play to this point, that's bad news for him if he wants a big contract, for the Warriors who need him to be better than he is. But I think if you have watched all 4 of the Warriors games that they've played so far, I think any rational person would conclude like Kuminga has not played well enough to deserve a starting spot, like unless and until he fits in better and earns it back. Like maybe that's harsh, but that's just the reality of what we've seen so far.